Buddhism in Sri Lanka before the arrival of Arahant Mahinda. Receiving of Buddhism to Sri Lanka with the visit of Arahant Mahinda in the 3rd century BC was a remarkable event happened in the history of Sri Lanka. Arahant Mahinda was the son of the great emperor Ashoka. The emperor sent Arahant Mahinda with the mission of establishing Buddhism in Sri Lanka as a result of the 3rd Buddhist Council conducted in India. King Devanambiya Tissa, who ruled Sri Lanka at this point of time, was also a diplomatic friend of Emperor Ashoka. Then transpired as a devotee of Lord Buddha and supported for the spread of Buddhism around the island. Although this event is the mainstream for the spread of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, there are other factors that we can analyze about Buddhism that prevailed in Sri Lanka in Buddha's contemporary period, which is categorized into 3 main facts. The first one, legendary stories about Lord Buddha's visits to Sri Lanka. Ancient Buddhist and historical sources of Sri Lanka assert that the Buddha visited the country on 3 occasions. The details on the visits are described in the ancient chronicle Mahavamsa, with the journey through other 11 places around the country. The first visit of the Buddha took place in 528 BC, which was 9 months after the Enlightenment, to a place in Mahiyangana, Sri Lanka. The main reason was to settle a dispute between 2 tribes lived in Sri Lanka, namely Yakka and Naga. After the settlement, the leader of the Yakka clan, Sumana Saman, who became a lay disciple of Lord Buddha, requested something sacred from the Buddha to worship by his clan. He is now regarded as a Buddhist deity in Sri Lanka. The Buddha offered some hair relics to him, which he enshrined and built a stupa. This stupa still proudly remains in the Mahiyangana area under the devotion of Buddhists. Click the video here if you wish to know more about Mahiyangana stupa. The second visit of the Buddha was in the 5th year after Enlightenment, which was 523 BC. It was also to settle another dispute between 2 kings of Naga clan, Mahodara and his nephew Chulodara, over a jewelled throne in Nagadeepa, present-day Jaffna, northern province of Sri Lanka. King Sammidhi Sumana brought the Buddha to Nagadeepa, and the Naga kings settled their disputes and declared peace after paying homage to the Lord Buddha. Then they handed over the jewelled throne to another leader of the Naga clans, King Mani Akkitha, who ruled Kelaniya, the area in western province in Sri Lanka, and later the king constructed a stupa in Kelaniya, placing the jewelled throne inside. The Buddha, accepting the invitation of the Mani Akkika, visited Sri Lanka for the 3rd time in 520 BC, which was 8 years after Enlightenment. There he preached his teaching to Naga clans resided in Kelaniya under Mani Akkitha, the Naga king. This time, 500 of Buddha's disciples from India came along with the Buddha and settled down in Sri Lanka. On this journey, Buddha visited several places in Sri Lanka, including Samantakota, by the invitation of the Prince Sumana Saman, who became a lay disciple of the Buddha in Mahiyangana. The Buddha placed his footprint in Samantakota, which reasoned to be named Samantakota as Shripada, and after British colonialism, the mountain named as Adam's Peak. In the 3rd visit of Buddha, he visited more places such as Digavapi, Mahamegha Vanarama in Anuradhapura, and he meditated at the place where the sacred Bodhi tree is planted and present. Watch the video of the story of the Bodhi tree to get to know more about the sacred Bodhi tree. Lord Buddha also visited the place where Mahathupa or Ruvanvelisaya built in the present time. After that, to the place where Thuparama and Sela stupa is also built. After these events, and when the time passed, these events were recorded accordingly in some inscriptions and were updated in scriptures mentions about the Buddha's visit to Sri Lanka. With respect to the above facts, the two tribes, Yakka and Naga, who lived all around Sri Lanka, became dedicated followers of Lord Buddha on his third visit to Sri Lanka. The 500 disciples who came with the Buddha from India and settled in Sri Lanka would also must have done a great job in providing livelihood instructions to whoever have come in their way for enlightenment in the supreme path following the advices of the Buddha. The second fact is the legend of two merchant brothers, Tappasu and Balluka, who visited the Buddha. According to the chronicles in Sri Lanka, two merchant brothers, Tappasu and Balluka, met the Buddha on their way of trade, traveling to Rajagaha in India. They offered alms to the Buddha, and this meal was the first meal of the Buddha just after the enlightenment. They became the first lay disciples of the Buddha. Requesting something sacred to worship, the Buddha gave a handful of hair relics by stroking his head. They came to Thiriyaya in the northeast of Sri Lanka and built a stupa enshrining some of their hair relics they brought down from India, which is now called as Girihadu Saya. There is also another belief that these two brothers came from Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. The third fact is that the identical geographical structure in the historic India and Sri Lanka. From the early period, Sri Lanka and India are geographically and environmentally very much identical. Many immigrations, invasions, trading, mutual, cultural and religious events have happened over the period of time. The Buddha had advised to do the missionary work without staying in one place. So, the disciples traveled and preached the Dhamma. During the Buddha's lifetime and 45 years of disseminating his knowledge, and this attitude of the Buddha gives us a clear understanding that traveling to a closest island from India cannot be a myth. Chronically, scriptures and monuments hold the evidence to prove this. On completion of the 45th year of his teachings, Lord Buddha came to Kushinara, where he wanted to rest. Eventually, he attained Parinibbana, or the passing away from this physical realm on fulfilling his purpose of coming to this world in 483 BC. According to the great chronicle or the Mahavamsha, Prince Vijaya, who had exiled from Latharata, a kingdom in northeastern India, reached Sri Lanka on the same day of the Buddha's Parinibbana. He was accompanied by a group of 700 people from India. He came into the country from the coast located in the northwestern side. There, he met a woman who was spinning yarn called Kuveni from the Yakka clan. This was the first contact for Vijaya from Sri Lanka, and at last they fell in love. Kuveni supported Prince Vijaya to defeat her leaders of her own tribe and became the queen, where King Vijaya entitled to be the ruler. Ultimately, King Vijaya, without hesitation, abandoned Kuveni with his two kids and brought a princess from his motherland to be his newly wedded wife in order to revive the connection with his people from his motherland. From another perspective, this seemed like an invasion against the indigenous people of Sri Lanka. Yakka and Naga along with other tribes. Further, the scholars and the writers might have wanted to highlight this incident as the formation of a new dynasty established from India, who wanted to have an upper hand in Sri Lanka. According to Mahavamsha, the great chronicle, there were no other organized religions prevailed in Sri Lanka until Venerable Mahinda represented Theravada Buddhism in 236 BC. There are some evidences from the chronicles that there was a wide range of religious beliefs and practices around the island was observed. But the Buddha's visits to Sri Lanka made a magnanimous impact in the country and resulted in building monuments such as stupas to hold as the evidence. The arrival of Buddhism throughout the Buddha changed many hearts and minds of the country. Elevated to see the truth of the lives, the new way of living and the teachings of the Buddha simply cannot be taken away from the people of Sri Lanka. Leaders of Yakka, Naga and other existed clans may have represented Sri Lanka under the mighty Achaemenid Empire, who ruled between the period of 550 and 330 BC. The Achaemenid Emperor allowed colonial countries to practice their own cultures, customs and religions freely. In 330 BC, Achaemenid Empire collapsed by the arising of the Greek Empire. Meanwhile, in India, Mauryan Empire became powerful and impacted the neighboring countries. These incidents resulted in the diminishment of the early knowledge prevailed in Sri Lanka. The newly formed Mauryan Empire, to strengthen its diplomatic relations with other countries, introduced Theravada Buddhism. And this is where Emperor Ashoka comes to Sri Lanka to facilitate the spread of Theravada Buddhism. In the 3rd century BC, it became the official and largely spread religion in Sri Lanka. Moreover, practicing the teachings of the Buddha is more important than anything whatsoever. 4 noble truths, Eightfold Path and the dependent origination are some of the main key teachings in Buddhism. Finding emancipation for our own liberation is in our own hands, according to Buddha's teaching. For this, following the Buddha's path is the only way to attain Nibbana.